first of all, the Satanic Temple, everything that they do is in response to very specific legal decisions from the Supreme Court, right? So that's sort of, they take those decisions and then they say, okay, but then if we were to logically extend that, then we could do this, right? For the situation with Christians in schools, I mean, to be clear, America is still a predominantly Christian country, and if you go to a school like Oklahoma, most of those students are going to be Christian, and they're going to have constitutional rights to practice their religion. The issue is when the government becomes a platform for indoctrinating or promoting a particular form of religion. So the Supreme Court has said you have to have a moment of silence. And if students choose to pray, they can, but you can't just say we're all going to pray, right? You can read the Bible in public schools for its historical value, but you can't read it in a devotional way, right? So where you get gray areas is there's this group called the Good News Club, and they are nominally a Christian after-school program, and they like to hold meetings in schools after the end of the school day. And some people complained, and they said this is very confusing to children about whether or not this message is coming from a private ministry or it's coming from the public school. And supposedly kids have come home and said things like, if you don't believe in Jesus, you'll go to hell. And they told me that at school, and everything that they tell me in school is true. I don't know if that really happened, but that sort of demonstrates the problem. What the Supreme Court has said is if you cannot discriminate against the Good News Club just because they are Christian, and if you're not going to let them come and do this after school, then you have to have a rule that no outside group can meet after school. So if you get rid of the Good News Club, that means no Boy Scouts, no, whatever other type of group might be there. The other thing is that a lot of schools have a practice of closing early on certain days. So the parents really need for them to be some kind of programming going on after school. So this is where the Satanists inserted themselves in the situation and created the After School Satan Club as a kind of answer to the Good News Club. And I think their point was really, do you see how uncomfortable it makes you knowing that there are people at your public school that you paid for with tax dollars promoting Satanism? That's how we feel, right, about the Good News Club. And I think the point that they want to try to steer people towards is maybe it would be better if just religious, after school programs happened in churches or recreation centers or really anywhere but in the school where kids are getting their education. As far as the actual content, I know they teamed up with people who design content for an atheist or secular summer camp. So the students are not, it's not like the Good News Club in that the Good News Club actually studies Christianity and studies the Bible. The After School Satan Club does not study the philosophy of Satanism or practice satanic rituals. They actually are studying like, bullying or how bats navigate with sonar or these kinds of fun, normal projects for kids. So they're playing this kind of strategy, which I don't know if it's a successful one, where they're saying we're not actually doing anything objectionable, but we also do want you to be freaked out that Satanists now have access to your kids, right? So they're always kind of trying to have it both ways, where they expect their opponents to panic, but then they want their opponents to look silly for panicking for no reason. At first, these after-school Satan clubs weren't really going anywhere because, well, the biggest obstacle was nobody wanted to enroll their kids in something called the after-school Satan club. There's no kids. But the other problems were schools would just stonewall. They found, well, if we just never answer the phone or we never answer our mail, then even though we're not allowed to discriminate against certain viewpoints, we can still de facto do that anyway. And we know that these Satanists only have so much time and money to dedicate to this. And then the third thing was to be around kids at a public school, you need all kinds of background checks and you need insurance. You need a lot of insurance. And some of the insurance companies were not willing to do business with Satanists. So that was also a factor. But in recent years, it has been revived, and they actually have been able to have meetings of this, and the ACLU has gotten involved, and it's become a big thing. And people are very, very upset. David Frankfurter wrote a book called Evil Incarnate, about kind of the way that people imagine evil with a capital E. And he doesn't mean like the Holocaust is evil or genocide is evil. He means the idea of just pure evil for evil's sake. Things like people imagining witchcraft or black masses or Satanism. And he believes this is kind of a recurring idea across history because it sort of helps the society to kind of join ranks against a common enemy. But he says these claims are always the same, whether we're talking about the Middle Ages and witches or even claims about Jews spreading plague or whatever. But evil is always parasitical. Evil always corrupts our innocence, right? And so I think the just saying Satan and children together in the same sentence is really going to make people's blood pressure shoot through the roof. And I think the Satanic Temple calculated on that. I do think, though, that they sometimes don't realize just how powerful a symbol Satan is for a lot of Christians. Sometimes I think they really underestimate how profound the reaction is that they are eliciting from some people. Because I've had college students who say, can I not come to class the day that we're discussing Satanism? Just saying the word makes me feel nauseous, and I don't physically know how I'll be able to get through a 60-minute discussion of it. And I think for the Satanic Temple, they're like, it's Satan, it's hilarious, right? Or there might be some real kind of convictions and values behind it, but the idea of Satan as kind of the cosmic enemy of humanity is just so far from their way of thinking. I think they're often forgetful of how other people perceive this.